Now Media TV and Pain Diaries welcomes Craig Murphy back to the show. We have some questions from the audience from our previous interview, and we would love to explore a little more regarding some of our insurance options when it comes to employers. So Craig, now there was a little confusion about what constitutes a group.
Sure.
How many employees do you have to even get on a group insurance plan?
So it's pretty simple. It's actually 2 employees. The difference is that some insurance companies are going to be a little bit hesitant if the 2 employees are husband and wife, but some others are perfectly okay with that. So if you are looking for a group policy, which offers you a much wider range of benefit options as opposed to an individual plan, definitely talk to us. We'd be happy to show you some of the options that are available as a group policy as opposed to an individual policy.
Okay, that's great. And then I guess the other question that came in, some people are actually employed, they're W-2s versus
Right.
1099 where you're contracted.
Right.
Is there a difference from when you're an employer providing insurance coverage for these different types of classifications when it comes to employing people?
And again, that is, most insurance companies are going to have a problem if all of the employees are 1099s, but there are some companies, if some portion of your group are 1099s and they are exclusively working for you, they're not working for anyone else, then sometimes they will, again, agree to that. It's not every single carrier, but there are enough options out there to be considered for that. You do need at least one W-2 person and the ability to show the payroll that these people are working for you on a regular basis, not just seasonally or temporarily.
So if they're only working, let's say like the summer season's busy or something, it wouldn't actually work?
It's generally no, because what insurance companies want that long relationship, and so you're not going to be able to have just people who are going to be there for a couple of months and then drop back off. They're looking for someone who's probably theoretically is going to be around for an entire year at a time.
But that's still great news to hear because a 1099 employee might not be able to afford their own insurance. And if they're contracted on a regular basis,
right,
they can potentially qualify.
That's correct. Keep in mind that the employer, there has to be that employer-employee relationship, and the employer has to be willing to contribute at least 50% of the cost of the cheapest plan that they're offering. They can offer multiple plans, but the cheapest plan they have to pay a minimum of 50%. So it's not, there is some skin in the game for the employer as well as the employee. And generally speaking, if you're trying to get an adequate number of people to participate, the employer has to contribute maybe even more than half the cost to encourage some of the range of employees, the critical number to participate.
Okay, well, that's great to know. I never knew that was an option.
Right. Well, that's one of the things that you can, if you talk to somebody. There are just a lot of people who kind of go into insurance with some preconceived notions that are not always correct.
Absolutely. And then, again, that's why we're here on Pain Diaries talking insurance, because it's a painful subject for so many people.
Sure.
And it creates headaches, and it creates turmoil, and it creates stress. And my job, being host of Pain Diaries, is to hopefully alleviate people's stress in educating them about what's available in the medical world.
Sure. Well, that's perfectly makes sense, and it's if you have to pay for doctor visits out of your pocket, it can be very painful, and
for sure.
And it's not insignificant, the amount of money that you're paying for health insurance, but it particularly can help if you have ongoing conditions. You need insurance if you're going to need to go to the doctor on a regular basis.
And even, I always tell patients, if they don't have any insurance, you really should look at even getting some kind of basic coverage for a catastrophic. You don't know what can happen, especially driving in Houston. It's
absolutely
reckless out there.
And it's amazing. On an individual, even though I don't work in individual coverage, there are tremendous options available, and with the subsidies available on individual coverage, it's really a shame when people think that they can't have coverage because it's available out there. It may not be covering first dollar coverage, but at least if you wind up in the hospital with, you need your appendix out,
right?
believe me, that's, talk about pain diaries, that would be a very painful experience if you're having to pay out of your own pocket for that.
Exactly.
For years to come.
So another question from the audience, can you describe more about the difference, when you're subscribing an employer,
right?
Do you offer different PPOs versus HMOs for the company, or does it matter how many employees you have to offer a PPO, things like that?
No, not at all. And
Okay.
in fact, we've got small groups that are as small as 2 employees, and you can offer both PPOs as well as HMOs. You can even offer, in many carriers, a combination of plans. So you could offer an HMO and a PPO.
Okay. Can you describe which one is which? Because that's super confusing for so many people.
Sure. An HMO is, and I mean, HMOs get a bad rap, but they're really excellent insurance, and it provides some great benefits. The big difference is in the network, as well as the, and generally speaking, an HMO stands for Health Maintenance Organization, and an HMO generally has a smaller network than a PPO. The doctors, you would normally have to choose a primary care physician who would be a doctor who's in the network, and you would have to, this would normally be a doctor of internal medicine, a family practitioner, a general practitioner, or a pediatrician. For females, you could sometimes go to an OBGYN. That would be your primary doctor, and if you needed care, you would go to that doctor first. And if you needed to go ultimately maybe to see a specialist, you would have to go to that primary care physician first, and they would have to give you a referral. So for some people, that's kind of onerous. It's kind of a bother to have to go to one doctor when they think they need to go to another doctor. It's the goal of the primary care physician to basically do whatever they can to take care of those conditions on their own, rather than immediately going to a much more costly specialist.
Right. I have patients that come to me and they have HMOs,
right,
but I have to have a referral on file.
Generally speaking, there are
Usually.
some. I mean, there are exceptions these days.
Of course.
There's what are called open access HMOs. We're not going to get into that, but generally it's a smaller network of doctors. You're going to have to go through that step, and it's generally in exchange for that you're going to pay a lower premium, and you're going to generally, unless it's a high deductible plan, you'll normally have copays affiliated with doctor visits, for example. So it's a good plan. Especially if you're young and pretty healthy, they work really well. If you've got a whole host of chronic conditions and you need to see 5 doctors a year, it is going to be very time consuming for you to go bouncing back and forth between the primary care physician and your specialist, when you think you really already know who you need to go see. So
absolutely.
PPOs, generally speaking, much larger networks. They're generally a national network of doctors. So if you wanted to go to the Mayo Clinic in Ohio, Minnesota, you could just go. So you've got a larger network of doctors. Generally, more doctors accept it, and it gives you the true open access. It generally also gives you what are called out-of-network benefits. That usually comes at a considerable cost in terms of deductibles and coinsurance, but it allows you to go to doctors that aren't even affiliated with the network of doctors.
Right.
So most of the major insurance carriers like Blue Cross, Humana, United, Aetna offer a variety of these plans, and it really makes sense for companies to offer a variety of plans depending on the health needs of their employees and the price point that is affordable to those employees.
Perfectly well said.
So yeah, that's why they exist, and it's they exist for a reason, and they're not for everybody, but they fulfill a niche that is very important.
Well, Craig Murphy, thank you for offering options to employers. We really appreciate you being here on Pain Diaries today.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again on the show here in Houston, Texas at 2110 on Now Media TV and across all platforms. And also thank you to April Clark and Dana Oliva for being on the show today. This is Pain Diaries, and I am Dr. Suzanne Manzi. Remember, take care of you so you can take care of business.
Thank you.